My daughter had this strange habit of running up the stairs after we turned off the lights downstairs. She always used to say she didn't want the alligators to get her. We live in New England, so there's no alligators near us at all. We had just let her watch Fantasia a few weeks ago and thought that the dancing alligators might have gotten to her head. One night I heard her crying from her room. She called out for her dad, of course, "Daddy." My husband was already out of bed and quickly walked to her room. I got up too. "What's wrong, honey?" "There's an alligator in the bathroom," she cried. I tried not to laugh. She's adorable and we love her to pieces, even if she causes us to lose sleep. We went along with it and went to check for alligators in the tub. We assured her that everything was fine. We pushed the shower curtain aside to show her it was okay. It took almost an hour for her to calm down. I made her a cup of chamomile tea and gave her a cookie, which seemed to calm her down a bit. This obsession with alligators continued for weeks, and I had to call my friend who's a child psychologist. We made an appointment with her for that Wednesday and planned for us all to have dinner at our house. She wanted to observe my daughter in her usual element, and close to bedtime, when the alligator troubles usually begin after dark. Tuesday night, the night before our appointment, I woke up to get a glass of water. I didn't turn on the lights. Moonlight was shining in through the windows. I walked downstairs to the kitchen, turned on the tap and started to fill a glass. Suddenly, I heard a sound behind me. It sounded like wet bare footsteps slapping against the floor. I immediately turned off the water and turned around. "Lillian? Is that you?" That's my daughter's name. My husband knows not to play tricks on me. I'm jumpy. That's probably where my daughter gets her fearfulness from. I grabbed a knife out of the holder and quickly turned on the lights. I could see a long scaled reptilian tail sweep around the corner of the entryway to my kitchen. It was very large. Like an alligator. What the hell? I peeked around the corner and saw it. This thing was no alligator. This was an intelligent being. It walked on two legs and it turned around to look at me. Its bright yellow eyes reflected at me in the darkness. We made eye contact and I was thinking, leave us alone. It heard me and left. I haven't seen it since, and neither has my daughter. I never mentioned anything to anyone. Not my husband. Not my daughter. And especially not my friend who's a psychologist. I let my daughter believe that it was all some silly childhood imaginary nonsense. The last thing I remember before blacking out was getting into a fight with a guy at a park. It was over something pretty small now that I think about it. His dog had taken a dump and I ended up stepping on it. The man refused to pick it up, and that's when my anger burst. I think I lashed out, but that's all I can remember. I'm now laying against a wall with a body next to me. It's the body of the man I had lashed out on. It's hard to see what injury he has, but it looks like he's bleeding. I can't make out how much blood is on the ground due to the dim light bulb barely illuminating the room. I never wanted anything like this to happen. I've had a few incidents happen in the past where my emotions have gotten the better of me. But nothing on this scale. My pocket knife is lying on the ground next to me covered in blood. I carry it for self-defense only and never had to actually use it. I can only assume that this is the man's basement. My head hurts like hell and moving is a problem. Probably because of the pain in my head making me dizzy. We must have gotten into quite the fight. Something is off though. I swear I can hear footsteps coming down the stairs. Wait a minute, I do remember someone else being there. Another person was there for sure. I remember being hit in the head with a rock, maybe, some kind of blunt object. That doesn't explain why this man is dead though. He would have run at the sign of an attacker, right? I must say, you gave me quite a hard time. I've never had such a feisty victim like you before. You even managed to cut my face, a male voice said as the sound of boots could be heard shaking the stairs. I sit there in shock for a moment like a deer staring at headlights coming at it. I have to admit, that little knife of yours is as sharp as they come. It cuts right through your friend's skin like a knife through butter. It was satisfying hearing him scream for his life as I slowly cut him apart. Don't worry, this will only hurt if you struggle, he adds moments later, walking towards me. I scurry around like a rat as I reach out, feeling the ground for my pocket knife. My efforts were in vain though, as my hand was crushed under his boots. I swing my other hand at him, trying to push him away. He simply stands there as I punch him in the leg over and over. Man, I love it when they fight. A lot of my victims simply surrender and die. But people like you who fight back are so much fun. I'm going to enjoy breaking you, he says, knocking me out. I'll never forget that dinner. The meal was liver and onions. I was just cutting it up and pushing it around my plate when my father's voice boomed, "You going to eat that, boy, or are we going to the shed?" Both my older brother and younger sister had been to the shed when they hadn't eaten their dinners. To my left, my brother was avoiding my gaze and tucking into his meal like it was the best chocolate cream pie. He'd never breathed a word to me about his shed experience, but it certainly had cured his pickiness. Across the table, my sister drooled. She hasn't spoken since. For some reason, I chose to ignore my father. I must have been feeling brave. He gave me a moment before he abruptly stood and announced, "That's it. Let's go." In the back corner of our yard, the shed sat benignly, its whitewashed face brilliant in the dim moonlight. Its door was large and padlocked. A moment later, my father was twisting the key and popping the lock. He then seized my shoulders and stared into my eyes, his face an inch away. His breath reeked of onions. "Listen here, son. You get in that shed and you eat. You eat and you don't stop eating until I open this lock. Understand?" I didn't understand. The door swung open, a dank, malodorous air assaulted my senses. Inside, some things, moved. Before I could complain, my father had shoved me in and slammed the door. After my ears stopped ringing, I heard shuffling and sliding as the unidentified things drew near in the blackness. They pricked my face, breathed in my ears, and slid between my ankles. Something greasy touched my lips. A voice seemingly inside my head ordered me to eat. The voice sounded a lot like my late mother. No, something that used to be my mother. No! I screamed. In response, rows of needle-sharp teeth slashed into my bicep. Eat. I ate. The teeth withdrew. I ate so many putrid, rotten, sanguine and arcane things in that shed. I ate the tough, the chewy, the squidgy, the foamy, and the fluid-filled. I ate until I felt I was going to die, and that was just the beginning. Whenever I tried to quit, I felt those teeth tear into my skin until I complied. Strangely, I began to like it. Soon, I ate with gusto. I became so full that liquids and solids literally oozed from my orifices. A seeming eternity later, I heard my father's voice, sounding a world away. Had enough? I never again complained about my dinner. As the years passed, I kept an intentionally close relationship with my father. I even bought his house and cared for him in his old age. One day, his appetite failed. When it did, I took his frail and weak shoulders between my hands, looked him squarely in the eyes and growled, "Time to go to the shed."